Headphone listeners beware, because this week on Forever Spinning we are looking at the crowning achievement in heavy metal, Powerslave by Iron Maiden. After their expansive 1983 World Peace Tour, the band immediately went back and started writing new music. In February of 1984, lead singer Bruce Dickinson, guitarist Adrian Smith and Dave Murray, bassist Steve Harris, and drummer Nico McBrien all got together and began working on their fifth studio LP. They flew to the Bahamas and began recording at Compass Point Studios. For the first time in the band's history, they actually had the same group of people consecutively for back-to-back albums. So this core group of 5 members were actually able to take what they did on their previous album and kind of move on and take it forward on Powerslave. And using this knowledge of each other's strengths and weaknesses, they were very easily able to play off of these ideas. This is what makes this album so much better in comparison to some of the other Iron Maiden albums. Mixing in this gritty thrashing on top of the heavy metal, as well as this more progressive and more orchestrated sound, allowed the album to kind of fill out more. And the true success behind this album does lie in the consistency of the members. Each member of Iron Maiden brings something to the table on this album, specifically bassist and songwriter Steve Harris. He wrote 4 out of the 8 songs on this album, and it definitely shows that each contributing member made a huge difference in each song. Anyway, after the recording sessions were done, they went back to New York City where they mixed the album at Electric Lady Studios. The album was then released on EMI and Capitol Records on September 3rd, 1984. The first single to be released alongside of Powerslave is the track 2 Minutes to Midnight. This is a riveting 6-minute track written by bassist Steve Harris as well as guitarist Adrian Smith. And this song truly ignites the fears of total world destruction. The title 2 Minutes to Midnight is a direct reference to the idea of total nuclear warfare, the 2 minutes being the countdown to the end of the doomsday clock, and midnight referencing that 0 point where everything goes to... The song came at a time where the Cold War was a very real thing for people. Taking that fear, Iron Maiden was then able to craft this song that morphed anxiety into utter anger. It enforced immediate action and not waiting until these final moments before world annihilation. It is easily one of the best written tracks, both lyrically and instrumentally, that Iron Maiden has ever done, period. The only other single to be released with Powerslave was Aces High. This is the opening track to the album, and it tends to be the opening track to their live shows that they do, as it brings this explosive energy to the crowd. Another bursting track with lyrics of a World War II fighter pilot in battle. But this is not an ordinary battle. This is actually in reference to the first totally airborne fight that ever happened between the British and the Germans in 1940. The vivid lyricism alongside these snarling vocals from Dickinson just evoke this fast-paced terror. This track then quickly became one of Iron Maiden's most successful, as it charted at the UK singles number 20 and has been covered countless times by other bands. One of the most highly respected songs that Iron Maiden has ever put out, and for obvious reasons. The scope of this album, in hindsight, is a behemoth of an undertaking. From the fast-paced road life that Iron Maiden was constantly a part of, moving from tour to tour to tour, then to have to put out this new music, and for it to be this good, the group was able to accomplish so much with this album, even though having very little time. And if you really think about it, it took from February of 1984 to about September of 1984 for this album to come into full fruition and then be put out. Just about 6 to 7 months. And looking back, it's almost obvious this album would become a hit. Having this consistency that I was talking about a little bit earlier with the 5 core members still coming back for this album is very interesting to see how they were able to use this creativity and input that maybe they weren't able to have on other projects. They knew each other by now. They were able to bounce off each other's ideas and really turn this album into something more. Turn this into what Iron Maiden is. And even with its loud, fast-paced heavy metal roots, it can still lend kindly to a pop ear. And when it's all said and done, this is one of the crowning achievements of heavy metal and easily one of the best in the genre's history. Iron Maiden was able to take so many different ideas and to craft them and morph them together into this cohesive piece of an album. Whether it be ideas of a World War II fighter pilot on Aces High, or the Egyptian theme title track, Powerslave, this thing encompasses so much. And it's almost untouchable when it's compared to other projects at that time. Maybe not the total tightness of the album, because at this rate, you have to say Pantera is probably the tightest and fastest out of all the heavy metal groups, but Powerslave with Iron Maiden definitely holds true to its sound and definitely still brings something new to the table here. And what they might have lacked in comparison to a group like I said, Pantera, very fast-paced, very tight, what they have against them is the sheer creative force and vision behind them. Not to mention, there isn't really a bad track on this thing. I mean, in all honesty, all 8 tracks, all 50 minutes of it, is pretty darn fun to listen to. Everything packs a punch, even up until and including the final track, which is 13 minutes long, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. To put it simply, Iron Maiden's Powerslave is truly revolutionary, from its sound, its concept, and everything built up around it. And it easily should be touted as one of the genre's best. So, whether you've never heard this album before, or if it's a personal favorite of yours, Powerslave by Iron Maiden will always be forever spinning. Happy listening.